Drill Sergeant. Another nugget of gold for a fiery trial. Jewels being collected by God. We have been talking in the previous tapes concerning the king of Syria and Elisha. We shall continue on with the victory in spiritual warfare. As we join with Jesus to defeat our enemies, we must never become discouraged or give up on our goals. This will prevent our victory, our miracle in spiritual warfare. It is also important to make a difference in our lives and to act wisely. Even after a few defeats, the king of Syria didn't get discouraged. Go find out where he is, the king ordered, so I can send men and capture him. The report came back. He is in Dothan. Then he sent horses and chariots and a strong force there. They went by night and surrounded the city. 2 Kings 6:13 and 14. He was after Elisha. The king of Syria told his soldiers to go and spy out Elisha's location. This means he was not discouraged, having been defeated already about 3 times. However, many people do get discouraged, just as they are about to get their miracles. This can be devastating because anyone who gets discouraged will never reach her or his goal. I'm going to say that again. Anyone who gets discouraged will never reach her or his goal. The spies came back with the report that they could not possess the promised land because the city was walled and the people in there were giants. Even after God backed them up all the way through the hassles they encountered in the desert, the spies were discouraged and thought it would be better to go back to Egypt. God told them if they could not go on, they would die in the desert. You need to take a note of that. The Lord wants you to go on. He always wants us to go on. He told his own children, he says, go on, go forward, don't stop, or you will die in the desert and never reach the land that was promised to you. Discouragement is expensive. Discouragement is something you cannot afford to allow in your life. If you refuse to be discouraged, your victory will be a given. This was the same in the case of 1 Samuel 31 through 6 and 18. It says, when David and his soldiers returned from war with the Philistines, he discovered that the Amalekites had overrun their city, making prisoners of all their wives and children. This is the story about Ziklag. They were broken-hearted and they wept. David couldn't hold back his tears. It wasn't long before the soldiers went buck-passing and ranted against David. They were depressed. But David encouraged himself in the Lord. He lifted up his eyes unto the hills, and help came from God. God told him to pursue the enemies, and he became victorious and recovered all that the enemies took away from the city of Ziklag. We also should not get discouraged and quit, because as Hebrews 10:38 and 39 states, if any man draws back, God shall have no pleasure in him. God has no pleasure in quitters. I'm going to say that again. God has no pleasure in quitters. Don't quit. In Luke 9:62, Jesus said that anyone who has laid his hands upon the plow and then looks back is not fit for the kingdom of heaven. Once you say you will go forward, you must never look back. You may say you have prayed and nothing has happened, or that God has said no to your request. Still, this isn't grounds enough to feel discouraged. A good illustration is in John 2:1-11. At the wedding in Cana, Galilee, Jesus seemed initially unconcerned when the wine finished. His mother hinted the caterers to do whatever he directed them to do. This is because he was sure he would help. She was sure he would help. After she appealed to Jesus to do something, had she been discouraged, no miracle would have been performed. In fact, his words indicate there are no grounds for getting discouraged. In Luke 18:1-7, Jesus said, "Men must always pray without giving up." He also told the story of a judge who had no regard for human or godly standards, but who changed his mind after the persistent plea from a poor woman. If Bartimaeus had not been insistent in his appeals to Jesus in Mark 10:48, he would have missed his miracle. There is also the story of the Samaritan woman who came to Jesus to get her daughter healed. Jesus did not answer her until she persevered. Even the disciples who could have helped her asked Jesus to send her away. She could have been discouraged when Jesus called her a dog, but she was adamant and got her miracle. It is easy to go forward when there is nowhere else to go. But when you have a benefactor or a fallback position, many of you all keep something to fall back on. You got a fallback position apart from Jesus Christ. You can easily give up on pressing forward. It is a natural choice to press on with Jesus when you discover that there is no helper like Jesus. Any problem that has brought you to the knowledge of Jesus Christ has brought you to the ultimate helper. If Jesus cannot help you, nobody can. He can help because all powers in heaven and on earth has been given to him. You're one step closer to your success. Why don't you look at somebody and just say that today? Even if you got to look in the mirror at yourself. I'm one step closer to success. If you are contemplating giving up, think about this. What if your next effort brings you success? It may be the final effort that would lead you to your answer. Even if it is not the final one, at least it is one step closer to success. Each time you make an effort, you will get a step closer to victory. Anyone who refuses to quit will succeed eventually with God on his side. The only people who will not quit, but will still fail, are those who are set against God. If you are persistent in seeking victory, it will help you to become somebody who cannot be ignored, just like Elisha. This is God's plan for all areas of your life, for you to be victorious. When the king of Syria was told that Elisha was his enemy, he had two options: ignore him or fight him. He chose the second option. He knew Elisha was not a man to ignore. The Bible contains many other examples. In one, Genesis 26:12 through 14, showed how Isaac waxed so great that the Philistines envied him. They could not ignore him because God blessed him. Don't you know when God blesses you, people won't be able to ignore you? And you wonder why they hate you. And you wonder why they despise you. Because in their eyes, they see how great God has made you. They can't ignore you. When God blesses you, it says, we are of the seed of Abraham, just as Isaac. So this is the plan of God for our lives, too. Take note, however, that Isaac was a sower and a giver. In another example, Acts 9:36 through 42 tells the story of the death of Dorcas, another great giver, because she was someone who could not be ignored. The people refused to accept her death. They testified of the good things she had done. Peter called on God to raise Dorcas, and God commanded death to give her up. A third example is in Judges 4:1 through 10, which tells the story of Deborah and the Israelites. The children of Israel were in trouble, and Deborah spearheaded the solution to the problems. She sent for a warrior to get the soldiers together. See, sometimes God will send you warriors to get the soldiers together. He'll send you leaders to get the soldiers together. He'll send you drill sergeants to get the soldiers together. The war general said they would go to war only if Deborah went with them. She mobilized warriors to God-ordained victories as the spiritual warrior of her time. Don't let nobody tell you that you don't have a calling and an assignment of the Lord, even if it's just to be a spiritual warrior. Be the best spiritual warrior that God has called you to be. Your life should have a purpose too. Don't be ignored. Make a difference. Let your life be like that of Rahab, who brought salvation to her household. Do something with your life that would change your generation for good. You also need wisdom to fight spiritual warfare. The fact that the king of Syria sent out spies against Elisha implies that wisdom is an indispensable constant in the spiritual warfare equation. Other scriptures address wisdom. Ecclesiastes 9:16 states that wisdom is better than strength. Ecclesiastes 9:18 states that wisdom is better than weapons of war. If you have weapons and you lack wisdom, you will fail. Ecclesiastes 7:12 states that wisdom is a defense. Say that again. Wisdom is a defense. Another key to success in spiritual warfare is to watch your tongue. This is the hardest thing for most people. Watch your tongue. This is because the success of a spy mission depends on what is heard more than what is seen. Say that again. It depends on more what is heard than what is seen. When Joshua sent spies into Jericho, their report was based on what they heard from Rahab. She said everybody's heart had melted because they knew that the children of Israel were set to destroy Jericho, and that their God is a great God. Your enemy will not know your secret unless you tell them. So heed the wisdom in Proverbs 18:7, which states that the mouth of a fool is his destruction. Similarly, Ecclesiastes 10:12 explains that the lips of a fool will swallow him. Proverbs 29:11 also speaks about this. It says a fool will say all that is on his mind, while a wise man will keep his lips in check. Repeat that again, drill sergeant. A wise man will keep his lips in check. That also goes for a wise woman. He who guards his mouth and his tongue keeps himself from calamity. Proverbs 21:23. This is important advice, as many of us have destroyed our prospects by talking too much. Many men of God are not where they are supposed to be because they talk too much. Many businesses have collapsed because their owners talked too much. There are many sisters who have been married today, but as soon as a brother came, they told everybody and things changed. Do not give your testimony until it is complete. Learn to control your tongue. This is a lesson in spiritual warfare. God is trying to teach us something today. How to have victory in spiritual warfare. How to have the victory in spiritual warfare. Another nugget of gold for a fiery trial. Jewels being collected by God. This is the Drill Sergeant.